Are you digging up the dirt on your dead? Want to find out how? Hear the latest on new family history sources and websites with interesting and fun guests and experts. Find out what other people have been learning about their ancestors. From kings to thieves, inventors to farmers, nothing that's been discovered should surprise us anymore, but it always does. Find out what we mean. Great family history stories and information are on the way now with Extreme Genes, Family History Radio, and extremegenes.com.
Yeah, I don't think Mother knew about this.
Uncle Marvin was strangled by his own beard.
Yep, you never saw it coming.
Hello, genies, and welcome to another edition of Extreme Genes Family History Radio, America's family history show, where we shake your family tree and watch the nuts fall out. I am Fisher, the radio root sleuth, and last week on extremegenes.com, I shared with you the link to an article about a man who went about doing his DNA testing to see who he might tie in with. And what he found was his father had had a son before he married his mother, and Dad himself didn't know about it. The revelation resulted in a divorce for Mom and Dad, the siblings not speaking to Dad. In short, it destroyed their family. And the article found in Vox essentially blamed 23andMe, the DNA company, for the situation, for not adequately warning their customers of the potential of DNA testing for revealing not only family secrets of generations ago, but family secrets of those in the here and now. Well, a response was written shortly after the Vox article in the GeneticGenealogist by Blaine Bettinger of Syracuse, New York, and I'll be talking to Blaine all about it coming up in about 10 minutes. Then I'll tell you about a website, a free one that everyone needs to know about who's interested in researching their family. It's called Macavo.com. Now, Macavo isn't anything like the Ancestries, the Find My Past, the My Heritages of the world. If you're not familiar with it, you're going to want to be. I'll talk to Michael LeClerc from Macavo's headquarters in Boston later in the show, and I think you'll like it. And, of course, Tom Perry, our preservation authority, returns to talk about thumb drives. How you use them, what you want to use them for, and what you definitely don't want to use them for. Okay, our extremegenes.com poll for last week asked the question, do you own a family heirloom that has the initials of one of your ancestors embossed, carved, or in some other way permanently marked on it? 83% of you responded yes. And on our Facebook page, we heard about an item or two, including a World War I military trunk and a set of silverware that was a wedding gift in 1883. So thanks for voting and sharing all that. This week's Extreme Genes poll has to do with your ancestors after they were dead. I mean, it is October after all. Are there any antique photos in your family of a family member after they died? It's not something you see much these days, but in the 19th century, it wasn't uncommon for people to photograph their departed spouses, children, and babies, especially if they passed suddenly, as it was the only way to preserve their image. And while I have a lot of 19th century family photos, none of the people in them appear to be deceased. Do you have such a photo? Cast your vote now at extremegenes.com. And if you happen to know the story behind your picture, please be sure to share it with us on our Extreme Genes Facebook page. And while you're there, be sure to give us a like so you can be a regular part of our growing Extreme Genes Facebook community. Hey, I can't forget to mention I have a free podcast app waiting for you to download to your iPhone or Android. It's a great way for you to catch up on any shows you may have missed or want to hear again. Just look up Extreme Genes in your phone's app store. In Family Histoire news this week, FamilySearch.org and GenealogyBank.com have announced an agreement to begin the process of making searchable on the Internet some 1 billion records from historical obituaries. FamilySearch.org has a training video available for anyone interested in being part of the army of volunteers that's needed to get this job done. Genealogy Bank has digitized over 6,500 American newspapers dating back to as early as 1730. covering all 50 states. And of course, obituaries are a rich source of family history information, including stories and often unknown relatives. You know, we're always suggesting if you have a comment or question to get in touch with the show either by Facebook, emailing me at fisher@extremegenes.com, or calling our toll-free Find line at 1-234-56-GENES, Genes. And Lynette Nicole of Arizona has done that, reaching out concerning an ancestor of hers. Hi, Lynette. Welcome to the show.
How are you?
Awesome. And you're right. And you almost apologize. You say, I am a novice at this stuff. And you know what? Novices are more than welcome. We're glad to get you involved and excited about what's going on in family history. And you asked a question about your great-great-grandfather, Peter Johannes Forcher. And you had this picture of him you spotted in a suit with a double medal on his left breast. Tell us about that.
Well, I noticed that he always wore it anytime he took a formal picture with the family. And I was grateful to find that it was several years in a row, and he always wore those medals, and I was hoping that I'd be able to use that as a tracer to find out where he came from. I talked to a woman that said he was in West Germany, and that may have led to Prussia, but I had no more information beyond that. I have the name of his father and the name of his mother, and that's all.
Okay. Well, I actually found those pictures, went and looked them up as you had described them, because I think they were on Ancestry, right?
Yes.
And took a close-up picture of those medals and sent it off to a friend of mine over in Germany who does this, Timo Krake. And Timo actually sent back a link to a place that describes certain war medals. Of course, it was all in German, and I don't speak German any more than you do. But you can run a Google Translate, and this is a great thing to do when you work with foreign sites, is you get the information, and then you copy and paste it into Google Translate, and you can start to get the feel of what it's trying to say, if not specifically what it's trying to say. So this is kind of interesting. It says that this was a medal from King George V, who was in power from 1851 to 1866. And it said it predated 27 June 1866. It was awarded to soldiers that were fighting against Prussian troops and fought bravely. And it says, in memory of his troops in their last battle at Longsalza, for all who fought in this battle bravely, though unsuccessfully. The medals were manufactured in Austria. The engraver was the medalist Jonner from Vienna. And it says the Hanoverian soldiers in the Prussian service continue to wear the medal. And they say they awarded about 16,000 of these medals because that's how many troops were involved in this particular event. So that's kind of interesting, and I will send you the link to that. But it tells you Hanover, first of all, is a general area, okay?
Wow, that's amazing. I was hoping it would do something like that because I could tell it was important to him.
It was indeed. Then if you go over to Find a Grave, did you see that Peter Johannes's grave was marked there?
Yes, I did.
And it mentions there, they said he was born in Liesdorf, Germany.
Liesdorf. Okay, I guess I didn't pick that up.
Yes, it said Liesdorf, and we looked to find records there, but there don't appear to be any online that you can find there. But if you actually look at the marriage record of his father, Peter, and Grietje Janssen Tappen from 1834, that actually took place in Morden, Germany. That is very close to Liesdorf.
Okay.
One other thought for you, too, Lynette, is I went on to Ancestry and saw that there were about a dozen people who had listed your ancestor, Peter Johannes, there. And nobody had any place other than Germany except one person. And that person listed Osteel, or Osteel, O-S-T-E-E-L, Oldenburg, Germany. And what you can do then is you go in and you look at who posted this on a public listing, and you click on the name of the submitter, and you might be able to communicate with them and ask where that information came from, that Peter came from Osteel, Oldenburg, Germany. Now, I went and looked this up to see exactly where it was, and Osteel is very close to Liesdorf, which was mentioned in the Find a Grave note, and it's very close to Morden, Germany, and this is all in the area of Hanover. So it all kind of ties together. It's just a question of whether or not the church records are available online or might be available through, say, the Family History Library in Salt Lake City on microfilm. But there's a lot of good clues here to help you get back to where you need to go.
Oh, I appreciate this so much. Thank you.
You are so welcome. Hey, is your genetic testing leading your family to disaster? Blaine Bettinger responds to an article about that very thing next in 3 minutes on Extreme Genes Family History Radio.
Your priceless 8mm home movies and your precious family videos are deteriorating right now. Heat, moisture, insects, dust, mold, time, they're all robbing you of your family's memories. It's time to preserve those treasures right now by digitizing them at tmcplace.com. They've been preserving memories for over 40 years. Home movies, videos, audio tapes, vinyl records, photos, slides, and even scrapbooks. Whether your treasures are enduring the humidity of Massachusetts or the heat of Arizona, tmcplace.com can digitize your audio and images without harming the originals and returning them to you with free shipping both ways on most orders. tmcplace.com can even let you track your package in real time with a special GPS tracking device. Trustworthy, experienced, affordable. Call tmcplace.com toll-free at 1-866-483-1717 to talk to Extreme Genes Preservation Authority Tom Perry about your project, or order online at shop.tmcplace.com.
While we all love diving into the deep end of our gene pool, don't forget about capturing the histories of those who are still with us. Go to Storyworth.com to start your family's story today. Each week, Storyworth.com will email a question to people whose stories you wish to preserve. Questions like, tell us about the day you got engaged, or what do you remember about your grandmother? All they have to do is reply with a story, either by email or by telephone. That story is then forwarded to the family and securely stored in a private online storybook. It doesn't get any simpler. You can enroll up to 6 storytellers for, get this, just $49 a year. You'll get a free 1-month trial, and for a limited time, Extreme Genes listeners get an additional 10% discount at Storyworth.com/ExtremeGenes. That's Storyworth.com/ExtremeGenes. Is your family story worth 13 cents a day? Sign up now at Storyworth.com/ExtremeGenes. Simple, secure, effective. Your story is worth telling.
You know, when it comes to family history, there's nothing quite like the thrill of the hunt and the excitement generated by every new discovery. Who were your immigrant ancestors? What ship did they come over on? Why did they come when they did? Did they participate in any military campaigns that took place in their day? What personal challenges did your forefathers and mothers endure? Heritage Consulting, Genealogy Research Services can get you the answers to many of these questions and more. They've been providing professional research and consultation services since 1978. Call toll-free 1-877-537-2000 to speak directly to a professional family history researcher. Heritage Consulting can research, collect, analyze, and interpret the countless documents your ancestors generated throughout their lives and present the findings to you in an attractive book or in an electronic format. The cost? Far less than you'd expect for far more than you can imagine. 877-537-2000 or go to heritageconsulting.com.
And welcome back to Extreme Genes Family History Radio, extremegenes.com. It is Fisher here, your radio root sleuth, with Blaine Bettinger from Syracuse, New York, on the line with us. Hi, Blaine. Good to have you on the show.
Well, thank you for having me.
I stumbled upon your article, which was in a response to the one from Vox, I guess a couple of weeks ago now. And this was the one where the reporter Julia Belluz wrote about genetic genealogy testing. And she kind of went after 23andMe and talked about all the negative ramifications of DNA testing. And it was an interesting article because I think it probably brought up some things that many people don't much consider when it comes to going and doing genetic testing. Maybe they're just expecting to get their ethnic background. Maybe they're expecting to connect to some distant cousins. And some people are not expecting to find out, oh, I have a half-brother, I have a half-sister, my father had children, or my mother had a child, or somebody was adopted. There are surprises that come from that. And really, the article kind of focused on those things. But your response, I thought, was quite good, and I'm not going to take away any of your thunder, but let's talk about it a little, Blaine.
Well, I think the important thing for people to know is that DNA testing can absolutely reveal family secrets. And it's important that people know before they undergo testing that that's a possibility, that they may learn things about themselves and their families that they didn't know. I don't want to suggest by my response that I'm in any way suggesting that people shouldn't be fully informed before they undergo DNA testing. On the other hand, I think it's also possible to overstate the dangers, and it's possible to suggest that DNA is the only way that these family secrets are revealed, and that's certainly not the reality of the situation. So as I noted in my article, that there's a theory or a belief called genetic exceptionalism. And that's a belief that genetic information is somehow special and should be treated differently from other types of information.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a big proponent of genetic exceptionalism because I think that everything DNA can do, you can find other types of information or records that can do the same thing. So
right.
For example,
Let me just set this up for a minute, Blaine.
Certainly.
What the writer talked about was an individual who had gone and done the DNA test as a gift for his family, and I guess had Dad go do it too. And as it turned out, he found a half-brother he didn't know he had, and Dad himself didn't know he had had a child sometime back in the day. And the result was a breakup of his parents' marriage, and all the other children aren't speaking to Dad anymore. And the half-brother at least happily found out who his birth family was. And he was basically blaming 23andMe for this dilemma because they hadn't warned him early enough that things like this could take place.
Well, yes, although actually he said in his article that although there had been a warning, he hadn't either understood the import of the warning or he had largely ignored it. And so he was advocating for more active notice or somehow, a flashing box that
opting in, that type of thing, sure.
Exactly. And there were a couple of other examples in the same article pointing towards revelations by 23andMe testing that families may have not enjoyed or wish they hadn't found out. I think, on the other hand, it's important to know that there are many, many, many situations where families are happily reunited thanks to DNA testing at companies like 23.
That's right. And really, I guess it comes down to, of course, we never know what may be back there. And they made an accurate point that you're not only testing your own DNA, you may be testing also your brothers, your sisters, because we all share that information. So, for instance, perhaps you don't have anybody out there, but maybe somebody's going to be surprised to find they're closely related to you. And it's a brother or an uncle or a grandfather that had somebody else out there. This type of thing can happen. So we need to be aware of it. But at the end of the day, it's like you say, there are many other records out there that can reveal these things just as easily.
That's absolutely right. I make the argument in my article that, for example, census records are just full of family secrets either revealed or waiting to be revealed. Birth certificates can list parents that people didn't think or know were the actual parents. Probate records, land records, all of these types of records are capable of revealing family secrets that have been lost to time.
Part of it, though, I guess, is that, to their point, is that most of the folks that we're dealing with and the secrets, I guess, we're most concerned about are those dealing with those still living, wouldn't you say?
Well, I think that when you're talking about scenarios of adoption, I think that's true. I think there's many other family secrets throughout time that have been lost through other records. So I think you're right. The DNA is largely looking at more recent family secrets, and I think that is part of the concern that that many of the people that are involved with these types of scenarios are still living.
That's right. And most of the records dealing with people who are more recent are still sealed at this point. They're not available.
Yes, that's true. Although I do make the point in the article that, for example, in 2010, Illinois passed a law that gave adoptees over the age of 21 the right to request a copy of their original birth certificate.
Yeah.
And that opened up many, many birth certificates for individuals. In fact, I think more than 10,000 have been requested since the law was enacted. So just think of all the secrets that have been revealed in those types of records.
Exactly. So really we kind of have to separate the recent living from a little bit further back, maybe grandparents, great-grandparents, and what may be found concerning that. For instance, I had a situation in my own line where I found that my great-grandfather had another woman on the side, and she accused him of having a child with her, and that came out after he passed, and she was going after his estate in New York City. Well, I eventually tracked down a grandson of that baby, and we hit it off and had some great visits and exchanges, and I said, hey, let's do a DNA test to see if great-grandfather was really the father of your grandmother. And we went about doing that, and the test came back positive. I wouldn't say it was a big surprise, but there was such an age difference between them. There was certainly a question of whether or not that was really true. And so that proved the family secret, and we put that to bed as a result of it. But I guess if it were something more recent where it's somebody who's still living, that could be a problem for them.
Yes, I think that's really where the issue arises. The scenario you describe is really no different than the scenarios that are occurring today. It's just that those individuals are deceased, and so there isn't as much of a concern. But I think that as long as people understand the possibilities that can result from testing, I think that goes a long way towards preventing those types of shocks. And so I think it's part of our responsibility as bloggers, as geneticists, as testing companies to educate people about the possibility of surprises, about all the possible outcomes that could arise from a DNA test.
You know, Blaine, I thought it was interesting that the article actually blamed the DNA company, 23andMe in this case, for the breakup of this man's family.
I personally believe that a test taker has a responsibility to understand what they're purchasing when they purchase it, just as much as I believe that the company has a responsibility to inform the test taker of the possible outcomes. I think everybody has some responsibility here to first educate, and then it's our responsibility to try to understand what we're buying when we buy it.
Exactly. And there are ways to actually work it out so that other people are not exposed to this information. If you want to still do the test, but maybe, for instance, keep your tree private, that would be one way I could think of.
That's right. There's different options. There are different privacy options. You can use a fake name, for example, if you want to do the DNA testing. You can provide false information about your age, your place of birth, all types of things to keep that type of information secret. Now, that can be challenging if the goal is for you to find relatives in the database. It's going to be hard for them to find you and connect with you. But if you're worried about these types of outcomes, then you can always sign up with these very restrictive privacy settings and then relax them as you become more comfortable with the results.
Exactly, because maybe you have a sibling or a parent or something that might have been involved in something, or you just don't know. And you think about it, your DNA is similar enough to theirs where you might expose one of their secrets as opposed to even one of your own.
That's right. And that's part of the thing that many people don't understand, that when you test yourself, you are, by proxy, in some ways testing your relatives, because you share DNA with your close relatives.
All right. He's Blaine Bettinger. He's the genetic genealogist. Thanks so much for your input, Blaine.
Thank you very much.
And coming up next, we talk to Boston and Michael LeClerc at the headquarters of Macavo.com. What is their site? What do they do? Why is it so different from everybody else? You're going to want to find out. It's coming up in 5 minutes on Extreme Genes, Family History Radio, and ExtremeGenes.com, America's Family History Show.
Hello, Extreme Genes listeners. I'm Larry Gelwicks, the getaway guru and host of the Travel Show radio broadcast with the hottest travel deals on the planet. And now you can travel more and pay less by joining me on our Travel Show podcast. Cruises, tours, resort hotels, airline tickets, stay close to home, or travel the world. I'll show you how to travel more and pay less. Go online to ColumbusVacations.com. That's ColumbusVacations.com. Click on radio and then click on podcast. It's really that simple. ColumbusVacations.com, radio and podcast for the hottest travel deals on the planet.
Got a brick wall in your family tree? Don't know how to break through it? Get professional help from Heritage Consulting Genealogy Research Services. Speak directly with an experienced genealogical researcher, not a salesperson, by calling toll-free 1-877-537-2000. When you call, ask how you could win a free 1-hour consultation with an expert genealogist. Heritage Consulting Genealogy Research Services, with over 35 years of research experience. Visit heritageconsulting.com. Did you know your family's memories are being destroyed a little at a time every day? It's true. Old home movies, slides, photos, and audio recordings fade over time. The longer you delay the digitizing of these priceless artifacts, the more likely it is they'll be gone one day. That's why you need to call the Multimedia Center.
I brought in VHS videotape and had them transferred to DVD.
The Multimedia Center, 2870 East, 3300 South, Salt Lake City. Open Monday through Friday, 10 to 6. Call 801-483-1717 or go to transferduplication.com.
And welcome back to Extreme Genes, Family History Radio, extremegenes.com. It is America's Family History Show. I am Fisher, your radio root sleuth, with a guy I have been trying to track down for the longest time because he is a very, very busy man. He's in Boston, Massachusetts. Monsieur Michael LeClerc from Macavo. Bonjour, Monsieur LeClerc.
Bonjour, comment ça va?
Ah, oui, ça va. Comment allez-vous? How far back is your French stuff?
Oh, my French stuff. I'm
you're
French
immigrant.
Canadian on both sides of my family. Both my mother and my father are French Canadian, and two of my grandparents were the immigrants.
Aha. So you speak a little bit of French for real.
A little bit, yeah.
That's good.
Not as much as I would like. I was the first one. My older cousins were raised bilingual, but my parents didn't think I'd ever have a need to read or write French, so they didn't didn't teach me French.
And then you got into family history. Go figure.
Exactly. I'm the only one in the family who could use it.
Oh, yeah, so it sounds like it. Well, Macavo, this is a site that anybody who is either just starting out in family history or is well along should know about. And you've been a part of this for some time, Michael. Tell us about the website, what it does, and why it's important.
Yeah, we've been around for several years now, and it's the latest effort by Cliff Shaw, who has been around for a while. His first company he created with GenForum, which is a messaging board system that very popular, and people still use it today. I still use it today for clues and things. So it's a great site and provides access to a huge amount of information. As you said, it doesn't matter whether you're an experienced person or a newbie. You'll find something there to help you. We have, like other commercial sites, we do have databases on our site, about 420,000, I think, currently, give or take. But we also search the Internet as well and return those results to you. But unlike a Google search, when we return results to you, they are only from websites that are of interest to genealogists. So when you do a Google search, you look for a person's name, and you end up with Facebook pages and this, that, and the other thing.
Right.
Somebody who died in 1780 probably doesn't have their own Facebook page. So it's probably not your guy. We do not crawl those sites in the first place, so you never get that stuff from us. You get good quality sites that are of interest to genealogists, historical sites, government websites with data, that kind of information.
So you narrow it down. I mean, you clean everything out so that it just basically harvests the best.
Right, exactly right.
How does that work from a technical point of view? Do you look for things that you can identify, sites that you say, okay, we're going to include this?
There's certain criteria that we use before our spiders crawl across something. So we don't let them go in to just any site. We look for certain kinds of information. We tend to look for dead people, so you won't find much on the living people on our site.
Right, that's good.
Well, I mean, some websites like Ancestry, you can find a lot of information on living people. And you can find some on us, but we focus more on the older folks, the generations that have gone before.
So it's a technical thing, basically, where you're looking for keywords to indicate that the site that you're dealing with has to do with family history or government or historical sites.
Right. Information that would be of interest to genealogists, local histories, that kind of stuff.
What's the cost of the site, by the way?
It's funny you should ask that. The thing is, we are completely free for everybody to use. Our basic users can search any database for free. You don't have to pay. You do not have to give us a credit card. We do ask that you register, only so that when we're giving you results and things like that, if you come back, we can remember what you searched for and give you that information again. So we ask for your email address, but you don't have to give us a credit card before you register, which is unlike a lot of other sites.
So how do you monetize it?
Well, we offer a subscription service that is for the access to advanced search functionality. It's not access to the data.
Okay.
If that makes sense. You can get there through our basic search, not a problem. If you want to search, for example, all the databases, that's a gold feature. That's a subscription feature. But we also have things like date ranges, localities. We have an exclusion field, which many people find very helpful when you're searching our site.
I wish more people had them.
As a New Englander, you will appreciate that we have so many people who, especially the Mayflower passengers, for example.
Right.
I love to use the example that if you're looking for William Bradford, everybody thinks of Governor William Bradford of the Plymouth Colony in Mayflower, but there's another Bradford family up in Boston. And if that's the one you're looking for, you have a hard time getting to those results because the governor is...
He keeps getting in the way.
Right. So you can use the exclusion field to say, don't give me anything on the governor or Plymouth or Mayflower. And then all of a sudden the Boston guy starts floating to the top because you've eliminated all that other stuff.
Wow, that is a great tool, especially in light of the fact that you're eliminating everything except genealogical and historical and government sites.
Yeah, exactly. I find it very, very helpful. Again, if you were to use Google or something, that's not set up for genealogists. That's set up to find living people.
That's right.
That's set up to find the people who are here today, and those are the results it's going to give you. The other thing about Google is it's so personalized now that you can do a search and I can do a search, and we're going to get different results.
Yeah, that's right. And any search engine, for that matter.
Exactly, but Mocavo doesn't do that. If I do a search or you do a search, you're going to get the same results no matter what. As a gold member, because you get all these other features, you can filter your results by locations and date ranges and things like that to view them. But you should see the same results no matter who you are or how you're logged in. And so for these advanced tools, there's a yearly cost of $100, but I believe there's a special on right now for $80. And you could also, if you just want to try it out for a couple months, you can do a month-to-month for $9 a month.
Oh, that's a great deal. Absolutely. And by the way, we haven't plugged what the site is, where you can get to it too much here. So let's mention it again right now. It's Mocavo, which is MOCAVO.com.
Correct. M as in Michael. And to answer one of the most popular questions I always get, it's a totally made-up word. It doesn't mean anything. It has right. whatsoever.
You mean if I spell it backwards, is this not going to be, let's see, avacam? What does that mean?
It's probably some word in Czech.
Yes, could very well be. What else do we need to know about Mocavo?
Well, as you've referred to, I do a bit of traveling and speaking around the country. And no matter where I go, I always bump into people who are grateful because they found stuff that they haven't found before. Many people have been able to break through brick walls of many, many years because of something they found on our site. We do have a lot of content that just isn't readily available elsewhere. I'm not going to say everything on our site is unique. That would not be true. But much of it is material that is not readily available on other websites, especially on other genealogy websites. Yes, there's overlap. There are things you can find on Mocavo that you can find elsewhere. There's also a lot of stuff that's unique that we've managed to find and get out there. And also because of the way our search functionality works, even if it is on another site, sometimes it's a little bit more challenging to find. With us, you can use those tools to bring it right to the top. As your listeners may have heard recently through the grapevine, Mocavo was just acquired by Find My Past, which is a British company.
Yes.
DC Thompson Family History, which owns many brands, and Mocavo is now one of their brands. Now, lots of people ask me, is Mocavo going away? No, we're not going away. We're continuing to work and operate just as we always have. Just now we are a division of Find My Past, so we have a lot more resources to throw at things to bring everybody even more and better resources for their research.
It's really kind of like panning for gold, isn't it, Michael? I mean, if you've got a lot of silt over the top of it, it's easy to miss stuff because you got to go through too many things.
Exactly right. I mean, people get hundreds and hundreds of hits, but how many times are they going to click that button to dig down to find what they're looking for? So we have ways of helping you rearrange that and even filter the results through. If you're a gold member, the site will also do what we call search reruns. It will search again for you on the same thing and say, hey, we found something new that you didn't see last time. You might want to check this out. You can also mark your results as to whether or not it was the person you were looking for. There's a yes, no, or a maybe. And once you mark that result, it doesn't show up over and over again, but you can go to your history and say, show me all the results that were positive for this person, or that were negative, or that were maybes. And you can check through those again. You can always see them again. But it gets rid of that initial blast where you're getting the same people over and over again.
Well, it's a unique tool that nobody's going to find anywhere else, and I appreciate all the efforts you guys are making to get the word out about it and making it free for the basic.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's other free things, too. We have our blog, which I write almost every day. There's a new post with tips and things of interest to genealogists, and every other week we do a little interview video cast with professional genealogists. We talk about genealogy, and we answer questions from Mocavo members who submit them and give them some advice. So there's a lot of free stuff out there.
Well, it sounds like a great service for a lot of people that they're going to want to know about this. So, Michael LeClerc, thank you for your time, and good luck with Macavo.com.
Thanks, Fisher. Take care.
And coming up in 3 minutes, the amazing Tom Perry from TMCPlace.com, our preservation authority. He'll tell you about how some things we commonly have today started as something else. And also how you use your thumb drives the right way and the wrong way. It's straight ahead on Extreme Genes, Family History Radio, and ExtremeGenes.com, America's Family History Show.
You know, when it comes to family history, there's nothing quite like the thrill of the hunt and the excitement generated by every new discovery. Who were your immigrant ancestors? What ship did they come over on? Why did they come when they did? Did they participate in any military campaigns that took place in their day? What personal challenges did your forefathers and mothers endure? Heritage Consulting, Genealogy Research Services can get you the answers to many of these questions and more. They've been providing professional research and consultation services since 1978. Call toll-free 1-877-537-2000 to speak directly to a professional family history researcher. Heritage Consulting can research, collect, analyze, and interpret the countless documents your ancestors generated throughout their lives and present the findings to you in an attractive book or in an electronic format. The cost? Far less than you'd expect for far more than you can imagine. 877-537-2000 or go to heritageconsulting.com.
While we all love diving into the deep end of our gene pool, don't forget about capturing the histories of those who are still with us. Go to Storyworth.com to start your family story today. Each week, Storyworth.com will email a question to people whose stories you wish to preserve. Questions like, tell us about the day you got engaged, or what do you remember about your grandmother? All they have to do is reply with a story, either by email or by telephone. That story is then forwarded to the family and securely stored in a private online storybook. It doesn't get any simpler. You can enroll up to 6 storytellers for, get this, just $49 a year. You'll get a free 1-month trial, and for a limited time, Extreme Genes listeners get an additional 10% discount at Storyworth.com/ExtremeGenes. That's Storyworth.com/ExtremeGenes. Is your family story worth 13 cents a day? Sign up now at Storyworth.com/ExtremeGenes. Simple, secure, effective. Your story is worth telling.
Remember how fun it was to capture those special moments of your children's childhood on video and watch it back, knowing that you'd be able to have that memory forever? Or watching a home movie of your own childhood and seeing many of your loved ones who are now gone. If you haven't yet digitized those family treasures, you're at risk of losing all of them with each passing day. Time and elements slowly destroy videos and film, as well as rare old photos and audio recordings. Rescuing your memories is what TMCPlace.com has been doing for over 40 years. They can transfer all these discs and hard drives so you and your family can enjoy them digitally for generations to come, and without damaging the originals. They provide free shipping both ways on most orders. They even offer GPS real-time tracking of your package so you can be confident that nothing can ever be lost in transit. Call toll-free 1-866-483-1717 to talk to Extreme Genes Preservation Authority Tom Perry about your special project, or order online at shop.tmcplace.com.
And welcome back to Extreme Genes, Family History Radio, ExtremeGenes.com. And every week, our friend from TMCPlace.com, Tom Perry, joins us. And Tom, you mentioned something about the hummingbird effect. This sounds very intense. What is that about?
It is. It's kind of about evolution. And people think, well, how does evolution, tie into genealogy, family history, and preserving things? A lot of things that we have today were accidents. Like polycarbonate that we use, that we make bulletproof police car windshields out of, was an accident. Somebody was messing around at DuPont and mixed some different things together and just left it, went home, came back the next day, and it has solidified. And he's going, well, this is interesting. He pulls it out of his beaker, and he's got this stuff that's basically bulletproof, and it was an accident. And so it talks about the hummingbird effect, how the hummingbirds work and they evolve. So a hummingbird is able to sit in front of a flower and kind of hover. Well, let's talk about some stuff that actually ties into us. Like if you look back in the old days, there was a printer that would have problems during the summer making his magazine's ink settle on the paper and dry without rubbing it. And he found out it was too warm and there was too much humidity in the building. So he got this engineer of his, whose name was Willis Carrier, and said, hey, what can we do to get rid of humidity to get it so it's not hot in here? The guy tinkered around and came up with what we now call an air conditioner. And so that air conditioning is what made the paper and the ink hooked together, so now he could print all year round in the summer as well. And then he started noticing that when his guys went on break to take lunch, they started eating lunch by the printing presses instead of the lunchroom. And he's going, well, why are you guys eating here? Oh, it's so much more comfortable. To make a long story short, that's how air conditioning came out, and everybody's probably heard of Carrier.
Of course.
So he was the first guy that invented air conditioning to make paper and ink marry together.
I had no idea.
Yep, that's how air conditioning came out. And take air conditioning to another point. Back in the day when the war was first over, air conditioners were pretty big, but they were starting to get smaller to like window size.
Sure.
And so then places like Florida and in the South, people started mass migrating there because now they could live comfortably there. And so air conditioning is what populated Florida and the South.
Of course.
Is that crazy?
Makes perfect sense.
And then take it a little bit farther, it goes into politics. Before 1952, only one presidential and two vice presidential candidates held from what we would call a Sun Belt. But from 1952 until Obama, there has not been one ticket that did not have somebody from the South on it. So this thing from the printing press all the way to how we have politics now, people living in the South, people retiring to Florida, is all based on this one guy needed his ink to dry and all these different things have come from. It's just amazing how stuff comes from that.
Amazing stuff. What are we going to talk about when we return?
Yeah, we're just going to talk about some of the pluses and minuses of thumb drives and other ways to store information.
All right, when we return in 3 minutes on Extreme Genes, Family History Radio and ExtremeGenes.com.
When was the last time you heard your grandmother's voice or saw your family enjoying life back in the 1950s or 60s? If the reason is you haven't known what to do with your old recordings, videos, and films, here's your answer. The Multimedia Center in Salt Lake City.
We brought in a video project to the Multimedia Center, and overnight they duplicated it to DVD so we could meet our deadline.
The Multimedia Center, 2870 East, 3300 South, Salt Lake City. Open Monday through Friday, 10 to 6. Call 801-483-1717 or go to transferduplication.com.
Hello, Extreme Genes listeners. I'm Larry Gelwicks, the getaway guru and host of the Travel Show radio broadcast with the hottest travel deals on the planet. And now you can travel more and pay less by joining me on our Travel Show podcast. Cruises, tours, resort hotels, airline tickets, stay close to home, or travel the world. I'll show you how to travel more and pay less. Go online to ColumbusVacations.com. That's ColumbusVacations.com. Click on radio and then click on podcast. It's really that simple. ColumbusVacations.com, radio and podcast for the hottest travel deals on the planet.
Hey, welcome back to our final segment of Extreme Genes, Family History Radio, ExtremeGenes.com, America's Family History Show. I am Fisher, your radio root sleuth, with Tom Perry from TMCplace.com. If you ever have a question for Tom, by the way, we would love to answer it on the air or even otherwise. You can ask Tom at TMCplace.com. That's where we get a lot of our segments from your questions. All right, Tom, we were talking a few minutes ago about thumb drives. And
Exactly.
I ran into somebody not long ago who said she stores everything she has on a thumb drive. That to me was like fingernails on a blackboard.
Exactly.
I was like, no, you got to listen to Tom. So here are some of the pluses and minuses when it comes to thumb drives.
Right. She needs an exorcism because that's the worst thing you can do. That just makes the hair stand up on the back of my neck. That is absolutely probably the worst way to store stuff versus writing with chalk on your outside sidewalk. The good thing about thumb drives is they're small, they're convenient, and they're really cheap. With thumb drives, only think of them as a moving device. So basically, it's like sending a letter to somebody. It starts here, it needs to go here. Once it gets to the new place, if you want to preserve it, you want to scan it, whatever, the piece of paper is going to go away. No question about it. That's how thumb drives are. They're made out of really cheap components. So you go to family reunion, you download Aunt Martha's photos and everybody else's photos. As soon as you get home, immediately you want to put it in your computer, upload it to your hard drive, back it up on a DVD or a CD, depending on the size, and put it in the cloud. So it's preserved in several different ways. I keep a thumb drive on my keychain all the time, but as soon as I get home, I put on something important. You could slam it in a door. It could break in your pocket. Like I say, the media on it is very volatile. It does not last very long. There's so many things that can cause problems with it. Don't ever trust a thumb drive. If you look at a place like Google, they store all kinds of their media on DVDs, CDs, things like that. They don't use the thumb drives because they're just too volatile. They're a good transfer device. You want to go to something that's permanent, and again, Taoyuan discs are what we like. But as we've said many, many times, and for you that have been with us for the last year, you probably heard this 30 times, but remember, you always want to store stuff on a disc, whether it's a DVD or a CD. You want to store it on a hard drive, and you also want to store it in the cloud. If you live in earthquake country, send it to a relative in tornado country, or to somebody that has hurricanes, because the chances of us having an earthquake, a hurricane, and a tornado all at the same time is irrelevant because we'll be wiped out and we don't exist anymore anyway.
Yes.
So you want to spread them around.
So here's a thought for you. We've talked about quartz discs coming out at some point.
Exactly.
And which means basically the data is etched in stone, which will last pretty much forever, yes?
Exactly. That's why I'm so excited about this. I believe it was Cambridge over in England is the one that's developed this technology. And once it hits the market, it's going to be very, very expensive, just like everything is when HD TVs came out, when Blu-rays came out, everything was expensive. But the prices will come down. And like you meant, this is like doing the 10 Commandments on stone. You'll be able to put 365 terabytes, your entire life, your entire family's life.
You couldn't create enough material to fit on that. I mean,
Right.
you basically, you would bury one of these with people and say, this is their whole life right here.
Oh, absolutely.
And it would last.
Yeah, we send a lunar rover to Mars. We could put a quartz disc on there in case somebody finds it. And that's one thing that's a misnomer. I go to genealogy conventions and family history conventions, and just remember, just because you hear it on the radio or from me or at a class doesn't mean everything's always the truth. Sometimes information gets messed up.
Or it gets changed.
It does. It's just like when you whisper in somebody's ear 25 people down, it's a whole different story now. Discs are not going to go away in any foreseeable time, because we have learned from our old mistakes of beta and VHS and things such as this. And even when Blu-ray came out, there was two different types, and one of them went away. The manufacturers are now smart enough to make things backwards compatible. The new quartz machines that are coming out will be able to read M-discs, they'll read DVDs, they'll read CDs, they'll read Blu-ray, they'll read everything that came before it.
And whatever you do, don't try to preserve things on a thumb drive.
No! Step away from the thumb drive.
All right, thanks, Tom. And thanks to our guest, Blaine Bettinger from Syracuse, New York, Michael LeClerc from Macavo in Boston, Massachusetts, and to you for joining us once again. Talk to you again next week. And remember, as far as everyone knows, we're a nice, normal family.